Mr. Bilkey.
Here.
Mr. Engel.
Here.
Ms. Hannikin.
Here.
Mr. Molnar.
Here.
And Ms. Tully. Here.
Okay. At this time, I'm going to ask that Commander Tom O'Brien come forth from post 801 and lead us in prayer first and then the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
Please uncover. And with bowed heads, let us pray. God of all creation, we come before you to welcome your Spirit to our Macedonia City Council meeting. As we begin this meeting, we ask that you would guide our thoughts and our actions so that we may have a successful meeting this evening. Help us to accomplish our goals. We pray these things in your almighty name. We ask for your blessing on this meeting. We ask that you would guide and direct our meeting so that it is full of wisdom, productivity, and respect for one another. We pray these things in your almighty name. Thank you for helping us accomplish our work and our goals this day. Amen. And now, please face our flag and join me in our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Chaplain O'Brien, thank you very much. In fact, he's straightened us out, by the way. We have, for the last probably, I don't know, I don't want to say 20 or 30 years.
Longer than that.
Longer than that?
I went back to look.
Did you?
I did.
We
I don't
have,
know how it
we have put, unfortunately, the pledge before the prayer, and it's under Robert's rules, it's God before country. So thank you very much for straightening us out. We're going to never be wrong again on that. Thank you. At this time, we have a presentation that's going to be, Mike, I'm sorry, what's your last name? Derry. Okay, I'm sorry. From the Auditor of State's office, or Treasurer's office, rather, Josh Mandel's office. The floor is yours. And this is on the Ohio checkbook.
Good evening. So are we working here? Fantastic. Well, my name is Micah Derry. I'm the Deputy Director of Legislative and Policy Affairs for State Treasurer Josh Mandel. And believe it or not, I'm excited to drive up from Columbus, Ohio, up to Summit County, northern Summit County at that, to be with you this evening. So for the ladies and gentlemen of the council and also ladies and gentlemen of the city administration, very happy to be here because I know that it has to be something special that would be a why. Why would this community come out on a Thursday evening rather than be with their families tonight? Why would a council run for office to be beat up by the community whenever something happens that not everybody understands, especially when you're doing a good job? Why would you give up every other Thursday night? And for the city administration, what can often be a thankless job? Why do we do that? And for me, I'd like to share a little about why I do what I do. For me, I'm the oldest of 4 kids in a military family. Grew up all over eastern United States. For anyone who is familiar with that military lifestyle, you know that siblings who may be classic rivals become best friends because they're in constantly changing environments. It was very true for my family. And in the midst of that, I had what most would consider a fantastic childhood. It was my freshman year of college, though, that a lot of very serious life events happened that I discovered my character wasn't everything I would hope that it would be. You see, in that freshman year, I had a traumatic brain hemorrhage without insurance coverage. Left me deep in debt. I had to drop out of my first year of college. My parents got divorced, and I was cut off from the only source of support that I knew, my family. In the midst of that, I fought my inner demons, fought addictions, and drove myself into homelessness at a very young age. But it was while I was there, a retired couple found me, Rick and Peggy Levinsky. And they gave me exactly what I needed at the time. They did not give me judgment. They did not give me charity. They gave me role models and people that were simply there and were able to listen and to lead by example. In leading by example, Peggy in particular was a constant inspiration. See, Peggy, at retirement age, at 60 years old, was still pursuing her lifelong passion of dance. And she was good at it. You see, Peggy reminded me how much it matters who we surround ourselves with. Peggy had surrounded herself with people that were doers, dreamers, encouragers, motivators. And the result was whenever she wanted to take on a new challenge, she was encouraged to do so, including hip-hop dance. And she was very good at it. And she was able to. People didn't tell her she was crazy. You can't do this. Think of all the things. You don't even like this music. They told her, go for it. And she did. The second thing I got reminded of, though, is how problems don't have to be permanent. Not so long ago, Peggy had a routine medical procedure go horribly wrong. And she was left with a life-threatening infection. I sat by her side in OSU Medical Center in Columbus for almost a week, watching her waste away to less than 100 pounds. Doctors said that even in the case of a recovery, she would have limited mobility and constant fatigue. Anyone who knows a dancer knows that that is a death sentence. The doctors didn't know what Peggy knew, and that's problems don't have to be permanent. She did begin to recover, and when she began to recover, she fought through the pain, fought through the fatigue, and today is one of the top-ranked United States amateur ballroom dancers, pushing 70 years old. See, I had that kind of example in front of me as I was getting my life pulled back together. And it's why today I work as a public servant with the state. I work surrounding myself with people who want to make a change in their community. And I help people identify their problems and help correct those problems before they become permanent. That's why I drove up from Franklin County to Summit County, and why I'm encouraged and why I'm outright excited to be surrounded by a community where I know people care about the community around them, and they want to make changes for the better. So, without any further ado, I'd like to talk a little bit about the Blaze project that we've been working on and the problem that led to that project. We're going to begin telling this story back in 1958. Back in 1958, at that time, if you wanted a coffee, you went to McDonald's, got it for 5 cents. If you wanted to watch a movie, you went to the movie theater. On the same token, though, according to Pew Research, odds were that you were also one of the 74% of Americans that trusted their government to always do what was right. 74%. Now, if we fast forward to today, this past week, I paid almost $5 for a venti mocha frappuccino at Starbucks. I also am binge watching Parks and Recreation on Netflix right now at home on my TV. And I don't fall in part of the 19% of Americans that always trust the government to do what's right anymore. 19%, still according to Pew Research. So there's been a decline in public trust. Now, for those of us who are public servants and doing a good job, this doesn't make sense. Because back in 1958, the access to technology was the library and using transparent sheets up on a projector. Meanwhile, if we fast forward today in the information age, 65% of Americans are looking for information about their government online. 65%. So if there has been an information revolution, people are using the internet to access information, why do we have this gap? Why is there a declined public trust when public servants are doing a good job? And why are more people looking for information and not finding it? In fact, when I say they're not finding it, the same research found that 93% of Americans believe that their government, their local government, was ineffective at sharing information. 93%. So that leaves us asking, why and what can we do to fix it? Well, that brings us into what we started doing in the Treasurer's Office. Because when we learned this, and then we learned that Ohio was ranked 46th in the nation as a whole in transparency, we knew we had to do better. So we began doing a review of the leading transparency websites across the nation. We knew that we could do better than what we were currently doing, and we believed that we could do better than the rest of the states in the nation as well. So we began working on ohiocheckbook.com. We launched it December 2nd of 2014. And by integrating simple technology that included a Google-style search bar, interactive graphics, we were able to put hundreds of billions of dollars of spending going all the way back to fiscal year 2008. Now we're talking about over $140 million. We're currently at nearly $500 billion of spending that are on there, 130 million individual transactions, By putting that information online, we were propelled from 46th in the nation to number 1 in the nation in transparency, according to the nonpartisan United States Public Interest Research Group. Now, armed with this, we had a vision to go further. Because transparency is a moving target. It is not a stationary thing. It is not just a single website. It is not a single report posted online. It is a moving target. So we wanted to expand this to the nearly 4,000 local governments in Ohio. Myself and some others in the office sat down with some of the associations, including Ohio Municipal League, and we shared with them this is our vision for transparency to leverage this technology for the rest of the communities in Ohio. In that process, OML included, gave us the exact feedback that the other associations gave us, and that was, sounds great. However, we are strapped on cash. Our members do not have extra money laying around. It's got to be free. Second is, in many of our communities, we have fiscal officers who have been around literally for decades. And to take on a new technological challenge is not easy. So it's got to be an easy process. Third and final, we are fed up with mandates coming out of Columbus telling us what we have to do, especially when it's not funded. So because of that, it's got to be a voluntary process. We came back with something that fulfilled all three of those. This is the local government and schools page of ohiocheckbook.com. What we're looking at is a map that shows the communities that are currently live online with ohiocheckbook.com. There's three ways to look up any given community. We can type it into the search bar. We can navigate the map, zooming in closer to look into a general area. We're also able to look down below and see the cities and villages, the townships, counties, school districts, and also special districts, which include parks, libraries, port authorities. We're going to go to one of your neighbors tonight to demonstrate what a local site looks like and what its capabilities are. We're going to use the city of Stowe. When anyone is coming to the website for the first time ever, they're going to have the option to take a little bit of a tour. I think as the finance director could account for, most people don't know what multi-fund accounting is. And so as a result, while this by no means would qualify someone to be a finance director of a city, we'll at least give them an idea of what it is they're looking at. Tonight, we're just going to get started. In the upper left-hand corner is where the city logo goes. We're able to see that there are $242 million of spending accounted for in this checkbook. And that is over a grand total, zoom out here a little bit further, 82,844 individual transactions that are logged for the city of Stowe. Intergraphic charting is one of the things that is very crucial. Today, constituents expect to be able to find information in an easy-to-understand format, which means visualization. Posting a spreadsheet is not easy to understand. But by having different charting capabilities, we're able to display information in ways that may make more sense. Personally, I prefer pie graphs or bar graphs, but everything is available for whatever works best for the constituent. Additionally, while we're able to look at individual transactions, I'll hold down here, we can see the date, the department that made the spending. We can see the vendor that was paid. We're also able to click on different sections to see more information. Let's say, for example, we want to look at the water operating fund in Stowe. Now we're looking at the year to year. By hovering over each year, we're able to look and see different dollar amounts. If we want to learn more about an individual transaction, we simply click on it. We view check details. We're now seeing a depiction of a check. It's not the actual check, it's a depiction. And the fields are being populated by data that comes out of the spreadsheet that is submitted by the city of Stowe. If there is a question about the individual transaction and the constituent looking at it does not get enough information to answer their questions, they're able to submit a question that will go directly to the city, and they're able to get an answer directly to that question. Now, among the things that, remember I mentioned that transparency is a moving target, one of the things that's changed, people no longer just want to know how much money was spent, where it was spent. They want to be able to know, for example, where individual companies are. Now, I want to give a disclaimer. I've never been on Stowe's website before tonight, so we're going to try a vendor at random. We're going to see how this works. We're going to look first, let's try Staples. And we have a Google solid search bar, and what do you know? Let's go to Staples. And wouldn't you know it, it is office supplies. We're able to see how much money, it looks like the city just started using Staples in 2015. See how much money was spent there in total. We're able to change, this will probably not be the best example to give. Let's choose another one here. We're able to change, if we want to see what vendors used the most by the city, we check on vendor name. Looks like the payroll vendor, and that shouldn't be too surprising. Now, one thing I want to actually point out here, because it wouldn't surprise me if it's a question later. Now, payroll, this is important. If we look at payroll, you'll notice that there are not any names that are attached to payroll. You have departments, and that is it. I'm sure we'll be talking about that a little bit later tonight. Any information that is found on here can be downloaded. Be downloaded to an Excel spreadsheet to be searched and sorted in any other way that is useful. The fields on a whole that are available can be done in aggregates. If we want to look at expenditures, all that are over $1,000, say $1,000, $10,000, looks like City of Stowe has 14,000 of those expenditures. We're able to break it down to just those if we want to zero in on a specific type. Now you'll notice that we only have a total of about 5 columns that are showing. However, these are all fields that could be displayed if the city chose to display. Now, since we have launched this website, as I mentioned, we already know what it's done for the state of Ohio. When it's come to communities, we currently have 214 cities, counties, villages, school boards, special districts that are online, 214. We have 559 commitments to launch their information online as well. You'll notice that there's a lot right up here in northeastern Ohio. We would like to see a 460th up here in northeastern Summit County. In order to make it happen, we would work step by step with the city administration to make sure that no confidential personal information is released, to make sure that the process is done easily. And I've got great news for you, council, and for administration, and that is because of what you're using for your accounting system, CMI, there's already a patch that has been developed by CMI to easily upload your information into the online checkbook. It's done quickly, doesn't take long at all. And once that report is uploaded, after that, we would review the website with you to make sure that it looks like what you want, that no information is being released, that you're not trying to release, and we would not launch until we had your permission to do so. So again, looking at your neighbors around you that have already launched, and looking at those that are going to be joining, we'd really like to take the partnership with Macedonia and be able to move forward in making you guys the 460th commitment. I'd be happy to answer any questions from the council or from the administration.
How does the city get the information to you, and how much effort does it take for the city to prepare the information?
Sure.
And
Sure.
send it?
No, that's it. That's a great question. As your finance director is probably already somewhat familiar with, I imagine your finance director already runs reports on a semi-regular basis. CMI has created a report that is specific for the checkbook project here in Ohio. All your finance director would have to do is run that report, and it is literally as easy as click, drag, and drop into a portal with opengov.com, which is our private partner on this particular project.
When you say run, and I'm sorry, I'm not an accountant.
Sure, no, absolutely.
So you're way out of my bed.
I understand.
When you say run and dump, to me, dump is we just take our data or whatever checks we wrote or whatever, and we click a button and it goes into it, and your system does it for us? Or
Sure.
do we have to?
So-
But then when you say report, I'm sorry,
No.
I think of the old-fashioned where you're sitting there with your green visor and you're writing everything.
I understand.
Yeah, that's not acceptable.
And I'm hoping to not oversimplify this, and the finance director may wish to correct me on this. Let's say, for example, that and these are not going to be the exact buttons because I do not have CMI on my personal laptop,
Sure.
personally. There should be a drop-down column that she is able to select reports out of, and you would select the proper button. It would open a number of different reports that are available to be run. You would select that report and you'd say, okay, run the report. That would create an Excel spreadsheet, and you could choose where you want to save it to. Some people save it to their desktop. Some have a designated folder where they save that file to. From there, you open up and log into the back door. That is the city's portal into the checkbook. And from there, you're able to see the analytics of how many people are using your website, and you're able to see how much information you currently have displayed. There is a field, and the way a drag and drop looks like, and I can show you, drag and drop literally looks like this. You click on the file, drag it over, drop it. I just drop that file into the folder. From there, she would say OK, and it would upload the file. From there, OpenGov would put that into a website format. And from there, the finance director would receive a notification saying your website is ready for review. We would do a phone call, in which we would review, we would do a shared screen over the internet, and we would review that site to make sure that everything looks correct. And then from there, once we had permission, we would go live at the website. Does that answer your question, Councilman?
I think so, yeah.
Thank you.
So this would take obviously some time though, Mike, to get all this done. I mean, there would be some time have to be spent by efforts by our employees.
About 15 minutes.
That's it.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, with that said, the report, the computer will be working longer than that. It takes a while to generate the report. However, the individual running the report is able to do other things while the report is running. It's kind of like you're downloading a rather large file off of the internet. But the actual work time involved should only be about 10-15 minutes. Maybe somewhat longer when doing it for the first time ever, because whenever you're learning something new, it takes a little bit of time. Walking through step by step. The kickoff call takes about half an hour. The time investment is very low.
So how often do you have to do that?
That's up to the city. This is a voluntary partnership. I will say that a number of cities that have gotten involved have thought that they would only do the bare minimum of what we request. We request that a city does at least once a year. As the city administrations have begun to actually run the reports and upload it and realize how easy it is and how little time it takes, most have chosen to do it on a monthly basis.
Just give us a bit of an example of the kinds of issues that have come up as you're working with these partners, the municipalities, the school districts.
Sure. Positive feedback have been the issues. We have not had any CPI that's been released. We have seen a reduction in public records requests. I think the biggest thing that we aim for is we want to see increased trust. We want to build bridges, and we want to communicate the good job that we are doing. As a state employee, I know that I am good at my job. I know that I do good work for the state of Ohio. And I would say that the same is true of the city of Macedonia, that you do good work for your community. How do you communicate that? This website helps communicate that good job. It is not the end all in and of itself by any means. It is one more tool that allows you to get there. That's why we wanted to make it a free, easy to use tool that we can partner with you on. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, I don't have any, well, no, fortunately, I don't have any negative issues to report
That's
to
what
you.
I was asking you.
The software that you use, you said it's for USAS. Do we use that today?
USAS is given as an example. USAS is the accounting system used by all of the school districts in Ohio. You use CMI, and we do work with CMI, yes.
Okay.
So in summary, it's relatively simple. They've got an automated patch for folks to use, and it helps basically cut down on public records requests. Sounds like a winner.
And one thing that I would add to that is we do not leave the city to figure it out themselves. We are very customer friendly in the sense that we work hand in hand. And this is how little time it takes. If this took a lot of time, we would not be able to be on the phone the entire time to walk finance directors and treasurers through the process. It's simple, it's easy. We're even able to do shared screens so that we can see exactly what the finance director is seeing and help them in walking through the entire process. We've had nothing but great feedback for those who have done it.
Have any cities decided after they've started it, for whatever reason, they don't want to continue? And if so, what percentage are we talking about?
Sure. I'm not aware of any cities that have chosen to backtrack once they had their information online. All that I'm aware of is cities that have chosen to pursue additional transparency measures, such as, say, sharing revenues and things of that nature.
Would that be on this too, or is that a different?
So, I'm glad that you mentioned it. So I mentioned our private partner, OpenGov. OpenGov has additional services that are available should the city want to participate in them. Now, to be clear, those services are not covered and paid for by the state treasury. If it's something that would be useful to the city, and the council administration could see value added by showing budget to actual, showing revenue streams. Those are available through OpenGov. And so that's why I refer to it.
Okay. All right. Mike, I thank you very much for
Council,
your
thank you very
time,
much,
and
Mayor.
thank you for the presentation.
Thanks a lot.
And we're going to move on with our meeting. The first item on the meeting will be comments from, well, actually, I believe we got to dispose of our
minutes?
minutes
Is
of
it
our
minutes?
last meeting first. So we have a motion to.
Motion to accept the minutes as provided by the clerk.
Second.
Here we have a motion, a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion's carried. Okay, then the next item will be the public comments. At this time, I'm going to call on Kathy Loya. Kathy, would you step forward and just state your name and address, and be happy to receive whatever information you want to provide us.
Hi, Kathy Loya, 9186 North Bedford Road. Just here to talk about stormwater again. Just two things that I just wanted to follow up on from last meeting. Mr. Mayor, you had mentioned during your mayor's report last meeting that there's a lawsuit that the city is going to be joining with the city of Parma, I think it was.
Right.
Is there like a case number or something that is referenced on that?
Mark, do you have a case number
I
on that?
don't have it with me, but if you make a records request for it, we'll get you the information.
Oh, okay. I was doing some searching and I just couldn't find anything.
Or if you want to call, I mean, I had it, it was,
Actually, if you stick around after the meeting, I'll get it.
Okay,
okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
I don't know
appreciate
that
that.
you need to jump.
I just
to
wanted
that.
to do some further reading on it. that's
Sure,
all.
no problem at all.
So I appreciate that. My concern for myself and my present situation is, I do believe that public entities through the years have purposely routed stormwater through the tributary that runs through my property. This has created quite the flooding situation, as already identified by FEMA, for a private citizen, for myself to deal with. So liability, in my opinion, shouldn't rest with me, the private resident, especially if there's a catastrophic event. So just want to say that. Second thing I want to talk about is the North Bedford and Ledge Drainage Study. Thanks to the building department for getting me a copy of that. I really appreciate that. And this is the study that GPD had completed. And I think they should be given lots of kudos. It looks like a very extensive report, very comprehensive, encompassing the almost 1,500 acres that they surveyed and studied. So the current situation as presented in this study didn't happen overnight. It's taken decades to evolve into this sorry state. And again, different entities have contributed to the problem. Development upstream from us on North Bedford,
That's true.
including infrastructure to North and South Freeway Drive, Interstate 271, and now we look forward to what's going to be happening on Ledge Road with the improvements being done there, hopefully in the spring. It's all contributed to the floodplain status that we have to deal with. And we are the retention area for that area. So as I've stated in the past, public entities have created the problem for us private residents, and I hold really the city responsible for coming up with a comprehensive plan to eliminate the problem. So that brings me to the drainage study. I know that City Council last year approved the purchase and appraisal of a property, 883 Iroquois Run, and this document that I hope that you've had a chance to look through.
We haven't been provided it yet.
We have not been provided the document.
Oh, okay. I just,
I know,
had to ask for it.
we've
so.
asked for it before, yes, okay.
Well, so bringing me to that, there was a motion made last year in regards to last year's city council about an appraisal for my property at 9186, as was approved and passed for 883 Iroquois Run, but city council wanted to wait. That city council wanted to wait until the GPD findings came in. They're in. So I would just like to know, those of you that have had an opportunity to take a look at the study, and of course I am looking forward to seeing what Chagrin Valley comes up with. This evening, I'm just interested in hearing what you have to say and your impressions and thoughts based on the recommendations and conclusions that GPD made.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I have not read the report yet, so.
We've not seen it.
John, can you send us the report, or can someone send us the report?
We'll make sure you get a copy of the report.
Okay.
I think that we sent the report to Kathy, but we still have not received, by the way, the data, backup data from GPD.
We did pay them, though.
We have paid them, they've been paid, but they have this release that they want signed that we just received, which
Yeah, so we'll review that and follow up with them and get that done as soon as
Yeah.
possible, so we can get the data that we need.
And we're sorry it's taken so long, and if I would have known that it was gonna take so long, we probably would have taken other steps.
I see.
Well,
But-
again, I just want to thank the building department, since you had mentioned at the last meeting that you were going to make it available.
Yeah.
I just made a telephone call, and they were more
Just-
than happy to send it to me,
Yeah.
so.
Kathy, just so you know, I mean, I've met with Chagrin Valley, Don Sheehy, our engineer, and we have ideas, upstream ideas, that, you know, where there's one section where we can pull 20% of the water that's coming down, hold it back, another area that may be 10%. So there's areas above you that we feel that if we're able to work with the property owner and do things where we can put in some retention, detention upstream, that it's going to relieve that area. And there still needs to be work done in your area as well. And so that will be the next step. We're also dealing with Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District, because they have identified that streamway behind your property as a artery that they are going to take responsibility for. And so we'll work with them to see what kind of remedies we can come up with.
Okay,
And that will include maybe a detention basin back there. As you know, one of your neighbors is willing to give up some of their
Yes.
property to create that. So there's a number of things that we're looking at. We own the corner over there where the preserve is. We can maybe do something over there. So we're looking at every aspect that we can. We know that there's a problem, and, you know, that's one of my reports tonight about, you know, the thaw that we just had, and everybody's concerned about stormwater, and we have to address them. There's many issues. You're one of many, but we're certainly concentrating on yours.
just don't want you to
Mr. Mayor,
forget.
what's the timeline on
Well,
getting something
as soon as
done?
we get this data, then I think we can get them the recommendation as to how we should proceed. And then we're gonna start contacting property owners. And the property owners will have to give us either permission to come onto their property and create these detention, retention, or we have to buy the right of way.
Are we talking days, weeks, or months?
Well, it's not gonna be something that's overnight, I can tell you that.
Okay.
It's not
Months.
like that. But I think that the remedy that may occur directly behind her property with a detention, retention basin might be able to happen quicker, because we have a volunteer that
Yes,
who's
we
willing to
do.
give up property, and we might be able to get in there, build a retention, detention basin, divert the water that's coming down and through there, and that's some engineering issues that I can't answer. That's something that Don has to answer, but he can't do that until he gets the data.
Is NARSD willing to share funding in that area? Is that what they're telling you?
Yes, I've had lengthy discussions with them, we've had meetings, and we're ready to almost sign the agreement. We're having to sign an agreement with them so that we can maintain our funding from them.
Okay, and since it sounds like they want to take responsibility for the area behind where they live over there on North Bedford, if they do, would they be willing, do you believe, would they be willing to consider assisting with creating that retention basin?
That's my hopes.
Okay.
And if I may, in the catastrophic event that we had in '06, where we had 8 feet of water in our basement, 20 or 30% will mean that we could maybe just have 5 or 6 feet.
Okay.
So, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Julie?
Thank you for letting me talk. I wanted to make the community aware that we have a drug awareness event happening on March 3rd at the Nordonia High School. And there'll be many people there from the government and the community talking about this problem that is a huge problem. And for more information, you can find out on our website, nordoniahills.news, which is a new community website in town.
Great,
That was
great.
all. Thank you.
March 3rd at the high school, what time?
7 to 9.
7 to 9? Thank you, Julie. Sue?
Thank you, Mayor. And I would prefer not to have my photo taken, if that's okay. I'm
Okay.
not sure what that's all about, but, okay. I just would like to maybe have council reconsider the motion that they passed last council meeting to keep the healthcare on the books, keep the stipend for yourselves, you know, that you get. I know it only comes out to about $7,000 a year for all of you for that. But I did have Josephine pull the original ordinance, number 3 from 2012. And I'm just going to read just a little bit of it. Effective January 1st of 2007, the city's contribution for employee health insurance shall be 100% up to a maximum of $1,202 per month per employee for family coverage and $448 per month per employee for single coverage. And also, May 1st of each subsequent year, any premium increase up to 8% shall be borne by the city. Okay, so maybe you want to take a look at this ordinance again, the ones that voted, because I did some math, and let's say, this is probably an extreme example, but let's say we had 5 council members who all wanted or needed the family plan. Back then, in '07, with those figures, it would cost the city over $72,000 a year. That's a lot of money. By now, it may be closer to $100,000 because healthcare, as we all know, increases. So the thing is, I also asked if part-time workers, how many hours do you have to work to get healthcare? You have to work, according to Claudia, the HR person, over 30 hours per week to get health care paid for by the city. And you know, you guys have some summers off and lots of holiday. I'm not diminishing your job. Please don't misunderstand me. I do know you guys work really hard, but 30 hours a week on most weeks, I don't think so, okay? Out on a limb, but you know, I really don't think you guys put that much time into it because, well, it's just not relevant that you would work that hard as the part-time employees. So I'm speaking for, I know there's several other people who have also, other residents who have also are backing me up on this. Some of them are here, a lot of them are not, but if you could just take it, you know, upon yourselves maybe to bring this up again and really consider, maybe not like, I mean, you guys don't need, none of you are taking it, right? Nobody's needing it. And even if you did, do you think you deserve it based on not working and not letting the part-time employees get it? To me, they would deserve it more. If you know, you guys are elected, you wanted to be in council, you know, it's not the same thing as being hired as an employee, okay? I'm not sure if I'm making myself clear.
You are, yes.
All right.
We volunteer to do this, I think is
Well,
what
you do, and you get recognition, and you get perks, and you get, you know, I know, and this could be
Well,
considered.
The
Well,
perks are a little hard to identify, but
Okay,
yes.
the perks would just be, you know, we all know who you are, and, you know, fame and fortune may follow, I don't know. At any point,
Unlikely.
at any rate, you did choose to do this, you know, and run for election and get voted. So I just think that it needs to be, our city isn't really in a crunch, and we need every dollar, okay? And I think that we need to just take another look at this, you know, and I appreciate if you do, and so will several other of our residents. So thank you. I just have to quote the one person who said, "We are not employees, but elected officials per the charter," and that's, hence benefits or discounts should not be provided to us. That's how I feel as well, so thank you.
Sue, thank you very much. You know, when I came onto the city, I've been retired obviously since 2005, so I've been on OPERS, which is the Ohio Public Employees Retirement System. So I've received medical coverage that they provide as a retiree. And no sooner I got it back in office here, they threw me off. They said, because you are now working again, you have to go on the cities. I didn't want to go on the cities. I liked where I was. So I was forced back onto this system, by the way. And you're right, though, that none of the council people are in fact taking any of the coverage at all, so, thank you.
But it could happen.
Yeah, it could happen, certainly. Roy?
Follow my wife.
Well, you're supposed to follow your wife, Roy.
Oh, I thought you want your picture taken. Me. Okay, I'm Roy Metzel, I live on Smoke Rise Drive. I just wanted to say a couple words about this ordinance 2016, the one about the city's income tax, changing that. So has that been decided? I mean, I saw the big article in the paper. Has that been decided that you want to cut the thing in half? I mean, is that
It's one of
covered
the-
under here?
Yeah, it's one of the options, Roy, and
Yeah.
obviously, we're gonna have a finance committee meeting next Monday.
Right.
And that's gonna be one of the items of discussion at the finance committee, because we need to make some real tough decisions.
Well,
And,
I agree with-
that may be a temporary one, and
Right.
maybe, I'm not
I
sure.
agree
how-
with that. I mean, if you have to do it, you have to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, because, otherwise we go in the dumpers. But I just know, way back when we started out, regional income tax with the city, they had that big meeting, and everybody, they said, we're gonna put in this income tax. And everybody in the meeting was up in arms. And then I said, up my hand, let me talk. I said, I just want to let everybody know, you don't get to vote on this. The city council approves it. When we put that income tax in, you're allowed to go so much. It's like if we try to put another 1/4%, you have to go to the voters. But to reduce this, you don't have to. The council is gonna vote on it, not the people. And I just like to make sure the people know, so that, they don't come storming in here, because I know what happened in that other meeting when we first put in the income tax. Is that they were, I'm not voting for this. I says, you're right, you're not. And then they got really mad in the way they went. So that was my only comment. I just don't wanna, because I didn't see anything in that article that said, well, the council's just gonna pass this, you don't get to vote.
Yeah.
Because if you wanna make them aware that, this is it,
We're
So-
gonna in fact publish, Roy.
Yeah.
Back when I was mayor, we used to put together these beautiful charts that would lay out how much money the city actually gets from real estate taxes, and where's the money derived from throughout the city. And no question that we built a very good base in the payroll and profit tax, which is what the city really drives itself on.
Right.
But our real estate tax is very, very low, and we get very, very little money annually from that. And, I've always said that there's probably not enough money from your real estate tax, if you will, to plow in front of your home and salt, as well as put streetlights up. So then you got police and fire and other services and other things that the city provides. And I think once we put this whole package together and show it to the people again and reemphasize where we get our money from and how much money it costs to operate the city, I think there's a true reality there that we're really far behind in time. And I think that we're not unique in this situation. And that's one of my reports tonight, and I'm gonna talk about, so. I'm gonna talk more about it, and I'll
That
elaborate.
shows up on my property taxes when I pay them.
Well, no, actually.
So much goes to the school, so much
Yeah,
goes.
that's true, it
yeah,
does do
right.
that.
And we
about-
get nothing, I mean, it's so low, it's like, what,
Well, if you, let's
It's like,
assume that you
wow,
pay.
I don't know, we gotta raise that up.
You pay $2,000 a year annually in real estate tax. I know you don't pay that, you pay probably more than that, but we only get $180 of that.
Right,
So it's very, very little
but
money.
you provide a lot more than $180 in services.
Right.
And when I hear people complain about, oh, my income tax, I said, if you have a fire, or you need a police, or whatever, you don't pay your taxes, they ain't coming, Look at it that way, you're paying for all those services that you just take for granted. I know, been working in Rita for all those years, I know all this stuff about it. And even with our finance department that we used to have here, so, that's it, I just want to make sure.
Thank you, Roy, appreciate that. Okay, we're gonna move on, and we're gonna try to move the meeting forward here, and we've completed that, and we're gonna go on to pending and/or new legislation. The first item on the agenda would be resolution number 10, and I would ask that remain, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna ask it to remain, that's not the one I'm looking for. What do you wanna do with, resolution number 10?
Sylvia has that one.
Yes, I have it. As far as I'm concerned, I think we did say a third reading, is that correct?
I think we did, but after hearing the presentation, I think I'd like more time to digest what he had talked about.
Thank you, me too.
If council would agree to that. I'd like more time to digest.
Oh, all right. It's certainly acceptable to me. I wanted to make sure that you had an opportunity to hear from Mr. Derry, because I know that he's got a lot of experience. And we could hold it a second reading if that would be your preference
I think that'd be
tonight.
fair.
Okay, I could certainly do that. There had been even a suggestion maybe that we could, move the date to July 1st, being the date at which we would begin the implementation. So, at any rate, we'll talk about that. I move that we hold Resolution 10, 2016 at second reading.
Can we have a motion? Do we have a second to that?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion's carried. Next item on the agenda is ordinance number 14, 2016. Mr. Bilkey?
I know that you wanted to hold this at second too, so I move to hold ordinance number 14, 2006 at second reading.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to hold ordinance number 14, 2016 at second reading. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Next item on the agenda is ordinance number 17, 2016.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer ordinance number 17, 2016 for second reading by title only, please.
Do you realize I haven't read any one of these titles and no one has said a thing?
Well, there's good TV tonight, maybe.
I'm waiting for my,
Apparently, we're just, sorry about that. And now we're at 17, and I'll only read 17 then. An ordinance adopting annual appropriations for salaries, wages, and other expenditures of the City of Macedonia for a period January 1, 2016 to December 31st, 2016.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is ordinance number 18, 2016.
I'd like to offer ordinance 18, 2016 for second reading only.
An ordinance amending Chapter 182, Section 6 of the Codified Ordinances relative to the credit for taxes paid to other municipalities.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor, before we go on, I gotta get in there fast, because you're running fast tonight. I know that this is something that is very important. I know that I've been getting lots of emails. I've never gotten so many emails, and I'm sure everybody on council has about this. We really haven't even addressed the budget yet. I'd like to make a motion to table ordinance 18, 2016 until we get done with the budget.
Second.
okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions? Please, we'll have a roll call.
Mr. Bilkey,
Yes.
Mr. Engel,
Yes.
Ms. Hannikin,
Yes.
Mr. Molnar.
No, and I want to explain why. This has been a hot topic. I think there's been a lot of talk going on around this and what it would do and why we would do it and how appalling it would be. And there's been a lot of misconceptions, but I want to be real clear about one thing. This is one thing that was presented to us as an option to deal with our finances right now, because currently the state we're in, I don't want to say gloom and doom, but we're not where we'd like to be comfortably, and that's why this was proposed. So the intent here wasn't to just push this out and do it. This is just an option presented by the administration that we have on the table right now, and I'm not in favor of holding that. I'd rather, if we're gonna either move forward with it or not. So my answer is no.
Ms. Tully?
there were a lot of emails about this discussion. I also got a phone call, looking for my payment fortune, from someone from the past who also was very adamant that we don't do this, recognizing the fact I'd be impacted by this. My husband's on Social Security, but he also works at GFS. He'd not be impacted because he lives and works in the city. The issue is, this is exactly what Mr. Molnar said. This was presented to open the door to start looking at revenue streams. This was not to shove it down people's throats. This basically was a way to get that conversation started. And I think we need to take a long, hard look at our finances. Anyone who saw the paper today says they're looking at potentially a 90% drop in stocks. Yes, the government's going to have some issues. We're going to have some issues again. I'm voting no because of the extreme pleas from the various residents that I heard from. Some I know, some I don't know. But at the same time, this finance committee has some really tough decisions to make of what are we going to do with revenue.
Any reconsideration on anyone's votes here?
No.
Okay. The motion is apparently carried because there was 3-2, that it be tabled at this time, but I would just like to say this, is that, you know, I'm not here to win a popularity contest. I got elected. I was in this office 4 terms before, many years ago, and this city has operated on a shoestring. This city will never, ever get on top of repaving its road, taking care of its infrastructure, and moving itself ahead. These are tough decisions. I'm greatly affected as a businessman. I don't like the word tax myself. I don't like to have to be taxed. I probably pay more real estate taxes in this city than I know that just about any other resident in this city. I know I pay more real estate taxes. I'm not offering it as a real estate tax. This was a 50%, and this was an option, by the way, one of many options. But this council last year made decisions to deplete our general fund dollars. We will not make the end of the year and have a budget. We won't have any funds in the budget based on our commitments. The city needs to move forward. If you want to paralyze the city and you don't want to take care of your roads and you don't want to take care of your people, then you do things like this. And it's not a good decision. The decision is to move forward, help your people out. This is a temporary measure. It's something that I'm going to have to pay out of my pocket, but I'm willing to do. So I leave it like that. If that's what you feel is appropriate and paralyzing the city, then just go ahead and do that. Okay, moving on. 19.
Now for ordinance 19, 2016, for its first, second, and third reading by title only.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
An ordinance confirming the appointment by the mayor of Janelle Melanchenko to the position of zoning inspector.
You've heard the reading.
I move that we pass and post according to law ordinance 19, 2016.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any comments? I'll just indicate that Janelle has been working in our finance department, and she has a degree in planning. We are moving her from finance to zoning inspector. She is an excellent worker. She's been with the city a number of years now. She will, I believe, do a great job in that position. Is there any other comments?
I just would like to say I did have a chance to review the position description, and this is no criticism of Janelle herself, but I don't think that she's qualified currently to be in this position. So I would just prefer that we have a roll call vote.
Okay, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Belkey?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Ms. Hannikin?
No.
Mr. Molnar?
Brief statement on this one again. The administration chooses who we hire, fire, or whatever we do. I think that's not a place for council. All we do is confirm the appointment of their job. If they sat down in an interview with the administration and had extensive talks about what the job would be, I think the mayor that is elected by the people is the one we should trust in to confirm that. My answer is abundant yes.
Oh, Ms. Kelly. I'm getting like bitter, just quick. Sorry about that.
Yes.
I know.
Okay, the motion's carried. Next item on the agenda is ordinance number 20, 2016.
Mr. Mayor, I move to offer ordinance number 20, 2016 for its first, second, and third readings by title only.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and again, Desiree was in the finance department. I feel really bad for Rhonda because we're taking everybody out of her department, but we are also moving somebody over. But we had a retirement of, or I should say, Kayla, who was in the building department, who was a permit tech. She has now since taken a job someplace else, and we're filling her position. And Desiree was in the finance department, and we're moving her over into the building department, and she's already started to train to become a permit tech, and she's being cross-trained, so she's also has the abilities to jump back into the finance department when needed. So we have a couple people here that are definitely cross-trained in city administration operations. Okay, you've heard the reading. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion's carried.
No, that was just.
That was just,
Oh, I'm sorry.
now
Do we have a motion then to
adopt.
adopt?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I move to adopt ordinance number 2016 and post the same according to law.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt. Are there any questions? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Do you have any motions at this time for the canceling of the 24th meeting?
I'd like to make a motion canceling the March 24th, 2016 regular meeting in observance of Holy Thursday.
Are you gonna include the special meeting on the,
Well,
March
I was
20th?
going to do that as a separate
Oh, okay, I'm
motion,
sorry.
because it has to be separate.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to cancel the regular scheduled meeting on March 24th. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion's carried.
Okay, now I'd like to make a motion to schedule a special meeting on March 23rd, 2016. The meeting to begin at 7:30 p.m.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? Hearing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Any other motions forthcoming?
Yes, Mayor. After the last meeting, I had asked the legal department to provide me with some information that was relative to the legal case that we were informed that we had won in the last meeting. After review of that, I have drafted something that I'm going to bring to council today and make a motion. The motion is for censure per charter, section 4.13 of Councilor Hannikin. That is for overstepping bounds as a member of Macedonia Council with the finance director. Behavior unbecoming of a member of council with the facility next door with the dementia patients, and taking a position contrary to the oath of office. That's relative to the case that I had discussed earlier. I have a statement that I'm going to pass to council, and I'll offer the same to the media, and I'd like to offer that to council at this time.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any comments?
Yeah, I think that, in the work session, we asked you what the motions were, and you never even indicated what this is, and in the past, we've always had somewhat of an understanding that motions were gonna be discussed, at least briefly before. I don't think it's fair for Mrs. Hannigan to be ambushed by this, which it appears to me to be, and so I'm very much concerned about your behavior.
You make a great point, Mr. Engel, but you recall that you were also part of a censure of Mr. Miller years back that was not discussed in the work session. It was taken to the floor, and you did in fact vote yes on it.
I don't remember that, but I also know I voted in the past for censuring Mrs. Spraggins, and I've regretted at least that one, and I'm not sure, I don't remember Mr. Miller's censure, and I don't think it's fair what you're doing. And if I didn't object then, I was not as wise as I am now. I think your behavior is rude.
I think that this year, with the new council and the elections that we have established a decorum with this council, and that's something we would like to maintain.
Well, this is
One
the type of...
Mr. Engel, please let me finish. I'm
Oh,
speaking.
fine,
Thank
fine,
you.
fine.
We want to establish something here that we're going to work together. We're not going to work against each other. It's very difficult for me to look at all of us up here when someone says, we just won one of the biggest court cases this city has ever seen. And then the next statement said, well, we should have settled it for 50 grand. If you're right, you're right. I think there's apologies deserved across the board to many different entities. There was many accusations that were made, and we won the case, but it was turned into something negative. We can go into the finance director who helped develop a budget that said we had $2.5 million, folks. That influenced every vote up here. When the new lady came in, she says, we have 1.2. I'm a little concerned about someone working with the finance director sitting at home who's not supposed to touch our budget, but affected us that greatly that we have 1.2 when I was told we had 2.5. Every vote I made was based on $2.5 million. That is a great and profound impact on what we do every day.
May I?
Go ahead.
I understand that we're trying to move forward and we're trying to be more cordial, but at the same time, this type of activity, this ambush type of activity, does not encourage confidence. It encourages divisiveness, and that is my concern. I'm an attorney. Not 100% of my work is in litigation. And yes, it's always great to celebrate a victory, but it's not a ball game, Mr. Molnar. Just because you win a case doesn't mean you won economically. And we don't need to have pep rallies, and if one of the council members disagrees and suggests that maybe we won the war, but we paid a horrible economic price for it, there's a certain amount of credence with that. When I work for a corporation now, and I've worked for a corporation for approximately 7 years, it's an insurance company, American Family. So I don't have to worry anymore about the cost of attorney's fees because I'm paid a salary. But when I was in private practice, I would always talk to clients and make sure they understood. It's just not always about winning. There's economic cost with it. And so it's not, that's, you know, I think that's all Ms. Hannigan was addressing last meeting. And that's the point I want to make. And I just, again, this is not the way to encourage confidence and a work together attitude. So I am distressed.
You make great points, but I want to remind you of one thing too, that council governs itself. And when there's misconduct that's committed by this council, it's our job to address that. The one glaring one outside of the one you're referring to would be the situation with next door with the dementia and Alzheimer's patients, which is still ongoing to this day. And I'm deeply troubled that we're going to fight a place where, unfortunately, Mrs. Hannigan was found where she wasn't supposed to be, and they called our police. That's part of what my report shows here. And to this day, we're still fighting that battle because they said, you don't belong in here, get out of here. And now she is trying to get that woman's job. She's calling the board of the business and saying that, you know, she made a fatal mistake to tell you to get out of a ward you don't belong in. That's not conduct that I think Macedonia Council should foster. I think it's something that we need to say, you know what, enough's enough. I'm going to reference the gentleman that's here today. One of the things he said at the beginning was problems do not need to be permanent. This is one way for us to say this problem doesn't need to be permanent. Maybe this is the one time for us to say enough's enough, let's move on from it, let's all be adults. That's what I'm after.
Well, ambush is ambush.
All right, you've heard the readings. Are any other comments?
I'm going to make a comment here. This is the kind of thing that has been typical of Mr. Molnar. And there are things in here where he's attacking me like he just did about an incident at Summit Point. I have not spoken to anybody from Summit Point for months. And the statements that were made were false about me, and I think everyone knows that. But what I'm saying is this. The kinds of things that you're citing here, they go back to try to relitigate issues that we had disagreements about. And there is nothing in here that I've ever done to violate my oath of office. And the idea that you should show up with this kind of set of accusations with no preparation, no opportunity for me to do anything other than sit here and listen to this calumny against my name. And you can see that it was put together not tonight, that's for sure. I think that what we're doing here is that we're having trouble with understanding that disagreement is legitimate, and as was the case when I commented about this lawsuit, I said, and I don't see anything that is disrespectful about it, that it costs a lot of money and that we could have settled it for much less money, and I believe that's what we should have done. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. And I believe that's a legitimate point. I also believe it's a legitimate point to have disagreements on how we're going to approach the budget. And I think it's, I am not undermining anyone. In fact, when I have posted something, and this has been mentioned on the Max Civic website, we're talking about legislation that has been presented to council by the administration. That's simply what we're doing. And if that is in fact something that we cannot do, I think we're in trouble. And I will say this, there have been no discussions. Mr. Molnar has chosen to eliminate discussions totally, because now we have this 15-minute session where we just kind of shuffle through who's going to present something. So these decisions to try to blacken my name and to be very upset about disagreements, I do not believe are reflective of the way that our democracy should operate or any other legitimate business of this council should operate. I object to this presentation like this. As I say, there are a lot of statements in here that I would have to go look at to rebut, but to ask people to vote on this kind of thing, I think is an example of why we're having trouble. I think it is. And I don't believe any of it, and the public needs to know that if we can't have disagreements on council, we've changed from a democracy to a dictatorship. And I think we don't want to do that. So I think just basically this thing should never have been presented. But I do not have the majority, so we are going to just sit here and hear what's said.
I'm going to remind you that the work session was eliminated due to a couple of reasons. The first and most prominent reason was there was a lot of people videotaping and chopping and picking and choosing what they wanted to put out to the public for what they could see. By eliminating that, we got one camera. You're going to see and hear everything. There's nothing that's going to take place in that back room where you're going to hear a little piece of it or some of it. You're going to hear all of it. That was the main intent of that. And I want to remind you as well that the majority of council did agree to that. You brought up your website, Max Civic. You can put anything on the web you want to put. That's great. I think it's great that we communicate. I think it's great that we're transparent. But when you started off to hold on to your wallets, folks, MIG's coming for you, that doesn't say that you're working with this council. That doesn't suggest that you're extending the olive branch and you want to make this thing work for everybody. That's saying, you know what, I lost this guy in the election and I'm ticked about it and I'm going to let everybody know.
No, sir, it says nothing like that. It says there has been a sudden presentation of what is called an option, but was put on the table with no discussion. And further, as you recall, perhaps, Mayor Kupta is the one who put the camera in the council chamber, and that council meeting has been videoed by the city. And if anybody has a concern that it's being chopped, they can simply post it up on the city website. So the idea that somehow somebody else chopping it up, I don't even know who you're talking about, but nobody that I know has chopped up the council meetings. So let's just go back to this is the kind of behavior that gives local government a name where we can't have a discussion without having pushing and shoving. So I think it's objectionable, as I said. It's highly objectionable. Some of this is false. Some of this is just providing attack material. But frankly, we have much more important things to do. We have a budget coming where there's been a recommendation to increase the budget for our departments, $1.5 million from last year to this year. That's where our funding issues are. And I think that these kinds of issues are a distraction, and perhaps that's the reason for this being done by Mr. Molnar. But what I'm concentrating on and will continue to concentrate on is the residents of Macedonia, because those people are the people that we are here to serve.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
just real quick, your last comment, you're here for the residents. But when I read this, and yes, I did take speed reading in high school, so yes, I did read this just now. You interceded in a lawsuit. That wasn't on behalf of the residents, because that lawsuit was against the city, which the residents fund. It also states in here, and I know for a fact, that Mr. Curley asked us to have a different person be his intermediary with the city, because you were constantly calling, constantly putting yourself in the middle. And until I saw this, I did not know that you objected to it, and I was wondering why Mr. Engel never got back to me with who was going to be our mediator, because I had said our prosecutor, Myra, would be the perfect person. Totally objectionable. He doesn't look at anything at black or white as far as is it residents or not. So I'm surprised that it's obvious you knew that the city insurance attorney was trying to get you to stop. So I never heard back. But I did get a note from Mr. Engel stating, I never got your reply. And I said, you're replying to Sylvia on my text message. Let me tell you, I did reply. Second of all, in the private world, this is considered public. When someone has, I use this term, and you're probably going to be offended, behavior issues, how they're handling themselves. We give them 3 strikes. We don't fire them right off the bat. We sit there and we do basically what's like a censure. You sit them down, you talk to them about their behavior, it's unacceptable, you're inserting yourself where you shouldn't be, you're costing us money, you're not performing the job the way it was designed. The second time, you get a second warning. You're usually suspended for a few days without pay. The third time, you're gone. I can't tell you how many people have called me asking if we could recall you and use the city charter to remove you from the city council. My belief is, what you presented tonight is the first step that I would be doing in my day job, is to censure or do a formal write-up. You don't find it any concern at all that you inserted yourself into the Plow case. You know what I don't find in here is that you inserted yourself in the Quigley case. That also was city tax dollars. So for my mind, this is, and boy do I agree to disagree, because we've had a lot of disagreements. But if you're going to work together, you've got to take a step back and remember you're one of 5. You're not the only person sitting up here. It's not just the way you decide it should be. It's not that, sir, I'm working with the finance director because I'm working with him. Anybody can work with him. He was specifically told he was not allowed to do the budget, period. We specifically, as council, asked you to stop working with him, and you still did so. Don't say it's not true. You want me to go back and find the tapes?
That's from the notes.
It's in the minutes, you specifically state, I'm doing it because he's still paid by the city. Take this for what it is, of the things that have been done, that people have come to us and said, it's got to stop. I want to work for the residents. You've been working against the residents when I look at these citations. Working with a finance director who is on paid administrative leave and told not to touch the budget, working on the Plow case. This whole thing, I'm appalled with the whole thing of the building and going into the building. And now to hear that you may be trying to have reprimands against that person, take this for what it is. Take your oath of office seriously and become a team member of 5, not your lone person. Stop passing the notes. Oh, Rita's not here anymore. You got to work with us, not against us. That's all I had asked, and that's why I think this is appropriate.
Any other comments?
Just
can we
let me
have
say, Mrs. Tully, that I've had quite a few people contact me about recalling you also. And, and
Go
what,
for it.
what it is, whether it is or isn't a good idea, I don't think that's an appropriate step. We are elected by the public. I have done nothing that requires a censure. There are disagreements. There are always disagreements. And the team that we're part of is the resident team. We are colleagues here, and this kind of sneak attack is typical of people who are not confident in what they believe.
Mayor, I'd like to say one last thing. I don't always need to have the last words. I'm going to call the question.
Okay. Could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Bilkey?
Before I vote, I just want everyone to know I take this action very seriously, and I've thought about my vote. If this motion was about qualifying Ms. Heineken for having an opinion that is contrary to my own or anyone else's, I would vote no. I have always and will continue to encourage everyone to have their own opinion. If this motion was about punishing Ms. Heineken for having different points of view on the city-related resolutions, ordinance, and/or motions, I would vote no. I think having opposing viewpoints and political debates are healthy. But I feel this motion is not about quieting or punishing. It's about deterring the behavior of Ms. Heineken that falls outside her roles as a member of City Council. These actions simply cannot be overlooked and allowed to continue because they are detrimental to the success of this council and the city. Therefore, I vote yes to approve the motion.
Mr. Engel?
I think this is purely divisive. I think it's purely political. I think the fact that Mr. Bilkey's sitting over there reading a typewritten statement tells me that I wasn't part of the in-group and I didn't know this was coming. That's the type of activity, that's the type of behavior that sours council and makes city government not work. We need to be open and forthright with everyone and stop the ambush, stop the Three Amigo attacks. I vote no.
Ms. Hannigan, sorry, Ms. Hannigan, you don't vote. Mr. Molnar
Yes.
and Ms. Tully.
I guess I'm part of the in-group because I've just read this. That would let I remind Mr. Engel about the special meeting to hire the lawyer, the special meeting for the budget that none of us, the two of us, were not aware of, so we weren't part of the group. I vote yes. It's time to get back to working for the city and stop worrying about ourselves. And if you think someone thinks they're better than they really are, take a look at yourself first, put it behind you, and look outwards at the residents. That's why we're here.
Okay, the motion's carried. Okay, we're going to move on in this meeting. Is there any correspondence, Josephine?
I do, sir. Dear Mayor McLaurini, my name is Ben Hetzpet, and I am an Army Reservist assigned to Special Operations Command, Europe. Last week I was in Twinsburg at the Army Reserve Center for a conference. During the break for the conference, fellow soldier and I traveled into Target, Macedonia to purchase some items. While there in uniform, many people, 6 people in fact, came up and thanked us for serving in the military. This concentration of people who showed their appreciation for our service was impressive. While we are used to people giving us thanks, the ratio to people who came up and contacted us compared to the other thanks we received was the very highest. What we encountered was very much appreciated. I just wanted to return the appreciation they gave us by telling you of your citizens' attitudes toward the military. This is an announcement for Relay for Life. The American Cancer Society, Twinsburg, Nordonia, has been helping people for years. The city of Twinsburg hosts Relay for Life, the American Cancer Society's signature event. Relay for Life is a nonprofit organization dedicated to fighting back cancer. Fundraisers occur throughout the entire year. The Relay for Life, the annual overnight event, starts June 24th at 6 p.m. and ends June 25th at 12 p.m. in Twinsburg Tiger Stadium. At the overnight event, teams walk around the track at the football field with hopes to beat cancer, raise money, and have fun time. This year, 4 teenage girls are co-chairing the event. They are following in their parents' footsteps, as each girl has a parent that has chaired the event. We encourage you to support this amazing event by coming to a community meeting, which are every 4th Thursday of the month. The first meeting begins on Thursday, well, it's tonight, at 6:30 p.m. at the Twinsburg Public Library. You can also support Relay for Life by starting a team of 8 to 15 people. Teams raise money and bring liveliness to Relay for Life. We hope to see you at the event. More information is at www, all one word, relayforlife.org/Twinsburg. And this is for a resident, and you're really gonna have to bear with me because the email font is like this big. This is from resident Debbie Peck. She lives on Tiber Court. Dear council members, as a resident and property owner of Macedonia, I am opposed to the reduction in the income tax credit that was proposed to you by our mayor. While I understand this is legal and valid way to obtain revenue for the city, I feel this is a backdoor way of going about it. I ask that you do not support the ordinance to reduce the credit, but suggest that you work together in finding other avenues for funding Macedonia in ways that will garner support in the community. That's it, sir.
Thank you very much. Mayor's report. I wanted to indicate that when I first took office in December, I had sent out a letter to all of our neighboring communities to talk about regionalization. I feel that it's really important that we reach out to our neighboring communities and talk about ways that we collectively can save money by joining forces, and whether it be police, fire, service, and any other aspect of services that we as a city provide with our neighboring communities where we have duplicate services. I just had a meeting this past week with Northfield Center trustee, a representative of the mayor of Northfield Village, and a Sagamore Hills trustee. We are engaging in conversation as it relates to regionalism, and I am excited about it because I think it's a positive direction. As mayor, I'm trying to figure out ways of how we can cut our budget, how we can do more for less. That brings me back to the income tax issue, is that we are doing more with less, and I'm figuring out ways to cut the budget. And yes, I am out seeking every state and federal dollar that I can possibly seek. And we're doing everything within our means to be more efficient here within this operation. But unfortunately, and I will say this again because it was, obviously we tabled this, that doesn't mean it's dead, it just means that it's tabled for today. But we need to figure out a way and a means that we earmark money for over $20 million of roads that are currently in need of repair. We've got $20 million in repairs. And we need to have funds so that we can get these roads repaired. We have stormwater related issues that need attention. We've had just a thaw in our community where flooding has started to occur. Our phones rang day in and day out over those flooding issues. Service department has been out opening culverts and opening ditches and finding ways to relieve those water areas that we're flooding in. And a lot of those issues that we have, maybe crossover pipes that need to be replaced that are collapsed under the road. Other areas where people have taken and thrown leaves in the open ditches, or in their backyards where there's a drain and it's clogged it up and it's caused flooding in backyards. These are problems that the city has and they incur every single year. So I want the residents to be patient. We are out there and we're addressing those issues. And we think we'll get a good handle on it. Where we have the collapsed situations, like up on Driftwood and Shepherd, we got a collapsed pipe in the road. We're gonna have to cut the road open, and we're gonna have to replace that crossover. And there was a terrible flood area over there. We got another problem down by Florence. Got another problem over on Brook Point. So we're addressing all of those areas. But it takes money, folks. You can't resolve these problems without money. You know, and I'm willing to dig into my pocket to help. And I think that each and every resident in this community has a stake in this community. As a resident, if this city doesn't get itself in shape and we don't have good infrastructure, when you go to sell your property, you're not going to get the values out of your property. So it's important to us as residents that we maintain our infrastructure so that when you do go to sell your property, someone will be invited to want to buy it. Otherwise, they're going to say, why would I want to move into that community? They can't even take care of their streets. Is that what we want to be known as? A community that we can't take care of our own? I see the smirk on your face, Mrs. Hannikin, but it's not a smirking matter, not for me at least. I've lived here and I've been a resident here over 40 years now. I've been probably the longest elected official up on this podium and in this city. And I have dealt with these issues for many, 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 many years. And these are serious issues. I've helped build a tax base in this community that I think is a great tax base. But unfortunately, our tax base never grew as fast as inflation has grown. And so we've never caught up. So we got to do something about it. It's something that's really urgent that we need to do. Another note, we have interviewed for IT director, and we believe that we have a pick, and I'm going to be bringing some legislation to the table at next council meeting so that we can put this person in place. The city has grown to such point where our contracted services that we have to pay out are a large dollar each year, and we need somebody just about 24/7 here, if you will. So we are bringing forth legislation, and we can talk about that at the Finance Committee meeting on the 29th. The second reading on the hold of the security of big box users in our community. The police chief and myself and Lieutenant Yapopovich, we've met with some of the, we've met with Developers Diversified. We're figuring out ways that we can come together and have them help us with the security at the Macedonia Commons. I've talked to our neighboring communities like Northfield Center about what we can do over there with additional security on that site as well. I want our residents to feel very safe, and others that come into our community, that when they go to any of these stores, they know that that store is going to have a loss prevention program, and that they're not going to just turn their head when somebody is stealing from them. The reputation out there in some of our stores is that they don't care to prosecute. So the criminals know, well, let's go to Macedonia. That's a place I think we ought to go to and rip them off. We don't want that. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this legislation together, and we're putting more teeth in it, and that's why we held it at its second reading. I'm just providing you this information because we need to build some teeth into it. We need to get many of the large big box users in our community to buy into it and to have a loss prevention program and have some armed security, whether it be their own hirees or whether they hire our guys in to work off duty. So that's what we're working on, and so I just wanted to let you know on that. That's it for Mayor's report. Committee reports.
I have one quick one for the Finance Committee. We do have a meeting on Monday. This meeting on Monday is concentrating, and it's at 6 p.m., concentrating on our capital side. We already talked about the operating side. Now we have talked about the capital side, and then we'll probably have one more meeting to discuss both issues. There's been one thing I want to clarify, though. There's always been this talk of the carryover, and we were told it was going to be 8.2 to 8.5, and we made some decisions based on that. So let me give you an analogy to your household. When you create your operating budget for your house, What's my mortgage? What's my insurance? What's the gas gonna be? The utilities? How much money do I need for food? You know, what if I have I got a water bill? That's your operating fund. In your operating fund, do you touch your IRA and count that as your revenue? No, that's your retirement fund. Also, if you had a reserve savings account, are you gonna call that into play for your operating costs? No, you have that as a savings account, hopefully for a vacation, or gosh forbid your furnace goes astray. I think what happened is the 2 reserve funds that we have were counted in the carryover. They should not, they're part of your net worth, but they're not part of your operating fund. Especially one of them, which is our retirement reserve fund. We can't touch that at all. That's there for a specific reason. It's there for retirement. So I just wanted to clarify that. The other thing, I do have, we had some discussion. There was discussion about new employees and how much they were going to cost. Rhonda was able to present to me, and I have a copy for everybody. It talks about how many are new hires, how many are replacements, because it kind of just gave us one lump sum. So we split that out so that we can take a look at that and have that for our discussion. And then Rhonda has given me to pass out what I consider the state of the business. And she's going to talk about this in her report, so hold on to it. When she goes to her report, I'll pass it out. So I look forward to it. If you're more than willing to come, each department head's going to present their capital budget. They know better than anybody why they need something. And unfortunately, we've got a lot of capital to talk about between stormwater, between equipment, between roads, and the list goes on and on. So you're more than welcome to come. It's going to be, we're going to try and hold it to 2 hours because meetings after 2 hours become ineffective. But you're more than welcome to come and listen in, and we'll be in that room. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other committee reports? Okay, hearing none, then we'll move on to department reports. John?
Nothing to report tonight, Mayor.
Nothing to report? I mean, after I
Spring
talked
on
about
spring.
all...
You covered the stormwater.
Okay, so great.
We're already starting to compile a list of some of the crossover projects that we need to deal with this,
Okay,
this coming spring. So.
great. You want to talk about how much salt we have left? We got a lot of salt.
Oh, we just got almost 1,000 tons delivered the past 2
all right.
days, and our other shed is still full with another 1,200 tons. So yeah,
We did very well this year. Hopefully we'll be able to carry it over.
We're going to have
next year.
a couple big mounds of salt outside our buildings if we're not careful this year.
Okay, Mike.
No report, Mayor.
Okay, you know, I was remiss in not mentioning this, is that Mike is resigning and is taking another job. I want to congratulate him on the new job that he's going to get. I'm sorry to see that he's going to be leaving us, but you know, there's greener pastures out there, and so we're making some decisions about how we're going to deal with the building department, and because we also have, at the same time, we have Dennis Sachs, who's going to be retiring at the end of March. So we've got major transition things going on right now. So
Thank you.
Crystal.
Thank you, Mayor. Just here on behalf of Angela Manley, our Recreation Director, I'm in her absence. So we have some upcoming programs and events and meetings. March 2nd, the Parks and Rec Board will be meeting at the Rec Center at 6:30 p.m. Inviting all the residents to join us on Saturday, March 19th, for the Nodonia Spring Craft Show. That's from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Free admission to the public to come view the crafters tables. There will also be a kiddie craft corner from 11 to 2, as well as a special appearance by the Easter Bunny from 9 to 11. So it's going to be a fun-filled day. Also, we're having our annual aquatic egg hunt on March 19th. As well as a St. Patrick's Day healthy snack, kind of a parent-child class. That's the 15th from 4 to 6. And then something that I'm extremely excited about is our Aqua Swim Kids Adapted Swim program. We're partnering with Solutions Behavior Consulting because our aquatics program is committed to providing small group lessons for children with adaptive or special needs. The classes are going to be designed and certified and taught by Red Cross water safety instructors and board certified behavior analysts. Those start March 1st. If you have any questions, you can contact our rec center or our aquatics coordinator. And that's all I have. But, thank you.
Thank you, Crystal.
Thanks.
Rhonda?
Did you pass out?
I
Okay.
haven't passed out yet. Wait. Oh.
You're receiving a package that I've kind of put together for 2015. There's the first page is the 2015 revenues by source. I guess I'm your checkbook this year. And that gives you the detail as to what percentage each of the line items makes up. You'll see in 2015, the basic revenues were $15,546,863. Your second page gives you a breakdown of the source of income tax revenue, the employer withholding, the individuals, which are the residents, just the residents, and then the businesses that are within City of Macedonia. I also gave you a chart that shows from 2011 to 2015 how the income tax has changed, making the assumption that after 2013, the 0.25% was decreased for 14, and then again in 15 it's going down a little bit as well. The next report is schedule is just the 2015 property tax rates. You'll notice that 71.3% of the property tax rate that we get goes to the school district. The city receives 9.23% of the total property taxes that is received by the county. I also gave you some comparisons for property tax rates of cities that are in our area, noticing that we aren't the highest, but we're not the lowest either. City of Hudson is at 110.32 versus our 96.45. I also gave you a schedule of 2015 expenditures by category. You'll notice in the first chart, the revenues were $15.5 million in 2015. The expenditures in 15 were 17.2%, or 17.2 million. So right there shows you that you're depleting your cash balances. And then I also gave you the debt service, what our outstanding balances are for each of those categories of debt that the city has. So that's 2015. Wanted to let you know that in 2016, we received in January for RETA distributions, we received $754,116. That is under last year's distribution by $117,678. I'm glad to say that February came in at $809,390, and that was above last year's distribution by $106,811. We are still $10,867 under what we received last year, this time last year. I continue to receive more information every day about what is out there. I found out that there is a fire medic unit that was approved last year. It's in the works right now. We're going to be receiving it come February, so I have to find a way of how to pay for that, whether it's through financing or cash. That's another $290,000 that I had to add to the capital budget. Just wanted to keep in mind for Monday's meeting, the Capital Improvement Fund, there's about $2 million. Right now we have about $3 million of appropriations. $2 million was approved in the prior year. We're starting this year with $15,000. I have a transfer from the general fund of only $200,000. Even if we did not give any of the departments, any of the new hires, I still would not have enough money in that fund to cover all of those expenditures. So we have to get the funds somehow, somewhere, whether it's through the decrease in the tax rate portion or debt. And that's just going to cause the city to be in more debt because you're going to have the interest charges, etc. So the other thing I wanted to let you know is Sylvia had asked me a question regarding the if RETA could provide us with a 2016 estimate of some tax information of how much they thought we would get. as a distribution for the year. I emailed Rita to find out if they actually give us this information. They said no, so I said, don't create it. Well, he sent it to me anyway, and so on December 18th, he sent me a range. So he estimated that the city will receive either between $8,275,000 to $8,400,000. My estimate that I came up with was $8,365,000. So I'm right there in that range. And I know that you asked Rita for a public records request. They informed me of that today as well.
Yes, I did.
So I gave you the distribution. You're going to get it from them, and then this range of an estimate. So I think I'm right there in there. But we do need funds, whether it's through the residents or just through additional debt, which is just going to make next year and the years after that much worse. So that's my report.
Thank you. Brian?
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to thank the service department for not using salt. Makes it easier on our equipment, easier to drive, it's safer. And the new mayor, because he obviously brought in warmer weather than previous 2 winters. So I don't have to talk about unburying fire hydrants, which we always do because they're all unburied. So other than that, we have no other report.
Chief?
No report, Mayor.
That makes it easy. Mark?
No report, Mayor.
Don?
Hi, Mayor. Thank you. Just briefly, 271 project continues to go on. They're talking about maybe a Ledge Road closure sometime in early April, but they'll have more information as that goes on. Other than that, nothing else.
Were you able to check on that turning lane? And we're working on that turning lane at Shepherd with ODOT? to
Yes,
try to
yes.
Make that work?
We're having those conversations as well.
Okay, good. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I don't think I've missed any other department heads today. Okay. Do we have any unfinished business?
Yes, Mayor. Fun and Stuff D5 liquor permit application. I've been asked by the legal department to make a motion to request a hearing in our county seat on the advisability of the issuance of a liquor permit to Fun and Stuff. I think the intent here is that we want to have it in Summit County as opposed to down in Columbus. Is that correct?
Yeah, just practically, it makes more sense. We'll get a fair shake either way.
So I make that motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second, to have a hearing with regards to a D5 license that is being proposed to be given to Fun and Stuff. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion's carried. Any other unfinished business or motions? Hearing none, is there any new business?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to make a few comments. I have finished the first analysis of the budget provided by Ms. Hall. And in going through and looking at the question of our expenditures between this year and last year, we have a proposal in front of us on the budget that was given to us the day after the February 9th Finance Committee meeting. We went through to look and see what exactly we're doing with each department in terms of cost. And the total difference in cost between 2015 and 2016 was $1.5 million, give or take. So it depends on how we estimate the costs under the police department, which I'm still not clear. There's a couple of issues with that. But bottom line is, one of the reasons that we're having this issue with how much money we have to spend for capital is how much we plan to spend on departments. And in previous years, we have increased the departmental budgets somewhat, but we have not done anything to the level of increasing it. The total overall line department increase is 15.6% across the board. Some departments are more than that. Some departments, legal, for example, is less. But bottom line of it is, the reason that we're having a challenge this year in terms of the budget is, if we proceed with this kind of inflated departmental cost, then frankly, the revenue that's coming in, it's all coming into just a few areas. And and the vast majority of what we're getting is going into either the general fund or, in the case of the rec center, the 204 fund. But what I'm trying to explain to people is this. We cannot go to the level of changing the costs of our departments and still do all the capital needs that we need, because the capital needs are coming out of the money that's coming in from income tax primarily. So if we're expecting to collect income tax this year, it doesn't sound like we're significantly off that course based on your report, Mrs. Hall. It sounds like we're in the 8.3, 8.4 range that has been the common thing in the last couple of years. And we do have a very good reason to be concerned that we want to husband our resources this year and not greatly expand the cost of our departments. And that is what's in the proposal in the budget, which is why everybody is talking about this. Second, I just want to refer to what the information that I'm working with. Now, obviously, I wasn't the finance director last year. Mr. Weber was basically acting in that role. And I received, the final two reports I received, one was on November 5th, that there was $2.668 million in unencumbered. And I anticipated that that would drop probably around $600,000 because there's a significant amount of money that goes into the general obligation debt during November. So I expected that we would end up somewhere in the range of between 1.8 and 2.2 million, depending on a number of factors. Mr. Weber transferred money of various kinds in December I was not aware of till January. So the idea that somehow we can actually predict all of this is probably overstating the case that council can do that. I will say this, the overall situation with our budget this year, we have a debt that we're continuing to pay, and that debt will require this year over $1.065 million, and that's for this building and for the recreation center. And because of that, a lot of our tax money has gone towards these buildings for the last 2 decades. Naturally, the amount of repair of roads that we can do or stormwater prevention we can do is very, very heavily restricted by having that much debt. And we had a huge amount of debt that we've carried. We're now going to eliminate that debt at the end of this year. We're going to expire 0.25% of our tax revenue of our 2% in mid-next year. I have always believed that we need to replace that 0.25% with a capital improvement 0.25%, which will include roads, stormwater, and parks recreation. And we would be able to get bonds from that to be able to support a long-term plan for these roads. We haven't had a long-term plan for roads. We spent a lot of money on the infrastructure. This year, we spent a lot of money. We spent well over $1 million on infrastructure plans that have to do with 82 and 271 expansion. Next year, we won't have to do that because all of those projects will be done and we won't be financing those projects. So I guess that fundamentally, we need to be seriously looking at how much money this year to manage through till the end of this debt cycle. And adding a $1.5 million to our operating budget does not seem to be, to me, the way to handle that problem this year. Thank you.
I just put the final word on because I know it's getting late and we want to get out of here. But apparently, Mrs. Hannikin, you did not listen to what the finance director said, who is studying the accounts. She said even without any other extraneous cost of new employees or whatever, we still can't make the budget. I mean, I don't know why you didn't hear that. But with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Motion's carried.
We are where we are.
I have to work.